You're too available, and that's exactly why they stop respecting you. Sounds harsh? Good, because this truth will sting. Every time you reply too fast, every time you say yes when you wanted to say no, every time you drop your priorities for someone else's approval, you lose something. Not love, not peace, but power. And power, once lost, rarely comes back. But here's what no one dares to admit. Availability doesn't just make you ordinary, it makes you invisible. Because in human psychology, what's always there fades. Scarcity creates value. Abundance destroys it. But that's only the surface. The real truth goes much, much deeper. Let's decode what's really happening inside the human mind. Attraction, whether romantic, social, or professional, isn't built on kindness. It's built on uncertainty, on mystery, on psychological tension. The brain releases dopamine not when it receives the reward, but when it's anticipating it. In other words, the chase excites us more than the catch. The unknown keeps us addicted. So what happens when you're always available? When you're always there? When people never have to wait for your reply, your time, your attention? They stop anticipating you. They stop valuing you. They stop feeling you. Because the human mind stops noticing what it already owns. Availability kills curiosity. Predictability kills tension. And without tension, there is no attraction. But this goes beyond dating. Think about it. When your phone pings every second, do you appreciate the next notification? No, you swipe it away. But when someone rarely texts you, and suddenly they do, your heart jumps. That's dopamine. That's anticipation. That's value. You can't be valued if you're everywhere. Look at history. The most powerful men were never available. Pharaohs lived behind walls. Emperors spoke through messengers. Kings didn't answer questions. They summoned people. Because distance creates divinity. The king who shows up everywhere becomes just another man. The king who disappears becomes legend. Even Alexander the Great understood this. When he conquered Persia, he adopted the Persian ritual of proskynesis, forcing people to bow before him, not out of arrogance, but psychology. He knew people worship what feels unreachable. In every age, power has used the same formula: silence plus distance, chaos, reverence. Even the modern world hasn't changed it. The CEO doesn't answer every email. The actor disappears between films. The musician vanishes before dropping a single new track, and the world waits. Because waiting creates wonder, and wonder creates worth. The one who waits worships the one who doesn't. That's the first law of power. And yet, most men today do the opposite. They chase. They over-explain. They text. They plead. They make themselves available to everyone, and then wonder why no one respects them. Because the second you start chasing, you announce to the world, my value depends on your attention. That's not love, that's dependence. And dependence is the death of power. Let's go deeper. Every time you give someone your attention, you spend a form of energy that can't be regained. Attention is currency. It's what every platform, every company, every person wants from you. They don't want your money first. They want your focus, because your focus creates value. The same applies to people. Every second you give away is a drop of psychological currency. And here's the rule of economics. When supply increases, value decreases. You made yourself free to access, and anything free loses worth. That's why powerful men practice selective presence. They decide where they appear, who they speak to, when they vanish. Not because they're arrogant, but because they understand perception. Your presence must feel earned, not automatic. People don't protect what's always there. They protect what's rare. And here's the twist. Being unavailable doesn't mean being absent. It means being intentional. Every time you withhold your attention, you increase your gravity. People start wondering, what's he thinking? Why hasn't he replied? What's he up to? And that's when they start valuing you again. Because mystery is mental oxygen. There's a story buried in the shadows of history. In the year 604 BC, a boy was born in the Chinese state of Chu. His name was Sun Tzu. He grew up watching how leaders rose and fell. Not by war, but by exposure. The ones who talked too much, who showed their cards, who revealed their intentions, were always defeated. So he wrote a book that changed the psychology of power forever. The Art of War. In it, Sun Tzu wrote, appear formless, shapeless, like water. When you are visible, you can be attacked. When you are invisible, you cannot. He wasn't just talking about battle. He was talking about life. The man who is always visible becomes easy to read. The man who moves in silence becomes impossible to predict, and unpredictability is the highest form of control. Modern kings do the same thing. Elon Musk vanishes for weeks. Then one tweet and the market moves billions. He knows attention is energy. And when you control energy, you control outcomes. That's the law Sun Tzu discovered. And it's the same law you can use today. We live in an age of availability addiction. Everyone's online. Everyone's reachable. Everyone's reacting. We've mistaken constant communication for connection, but they're not the same. Being accessible isn't power, it's exposure. You're draining your value by responding instantly, by proving your availability, by making others the center of your time. And the algorithm loves it, because the more you react, the less you create. The more you scroll, the less you build. Availability is the new slavery and silence is the new rebellion. You don't owe instant access to anyone. Not to friends, not to lovers, not to followers. You owe your energy to your purpose. That's what every powerful man in history understood. The monks of Shaolin guarded their silence. The samurai meditated before battle. The philosophers of Greece spent years in solitude. Because distance creates direction. Noise destroys it. You can't hear your intuition if you're always answering notifications. Here's what happens when you stop being available. At first, people panic. They wonder why you stopped texting, why you disappeared, why the energy changed. Then they start remembering. They remember how it felt to have your attention, how your presence filled the room, how your silence suddenly makes everything heavier. Because silence echoes and absence amplifies. Soon they start chasing. They start investing. They start earning your time again. You didn't manipulate anyone. You reminded them of your worth. And now the dynamic flips. You're not chasing validation. You are validation. Because you became the rare one, the difficult one, the one who isn't always available and therefore always wanted. That's the paradox of power. The less you give, the more you get. The secret law of male power isn't dominance. It's discipline. The discipline to say no. The patience to stay silent. The courage to walk away. The world teaches men to over-explain, to chase, to prove. But power doesn't prove, it chooses. And if you remember nothing else, remember this. In a world where everyone's screaming for attention, the one who stays silent rules them all. Stop being available. Start being rare, because the rare become remembered. So what do you think? Is silence weakness or ultimate strength? Comment your thoughts below and subscribe before you forget, because next time, we're diving into the dark psychology of emotional control. And trust me, you don't want to miss that one.